Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club. If you're at all interested in anything we talk about in this episode, go ahead and check out the description down below, or if you even just want to know more about us, click on the links below. Now on to the episode.
Coffee Experts Club. Hey, nothing controversial this one because I'm blowing up all over on TikTok on our controversial conversation last time. People are just falling, all the trolls are just out there falling and hammering me right now. So if we could just slow down the controversy, I'd appreciate it, you two.
Don't feed the trolls.
It's just those people who lack ambition that are attacking you. That's all it is.
Do not say it. Do not say it. Because whoever's clipping these babies, I promise you, they're setting me up to get marauded on our social media. So Coffee Experts, thanks for joining us. I hope that you have not been offended by our controversial conversations. But today, we are going to talk about something cool, something I think that every coffee shop should consider, and that is new locations. Should I open a new location or should I make an investment? Where should my money go? I think this is probably the best title for this particular episode of Coffee Experts Club, because I think sometimes we can assume one or the other. And I think it's really important to look at the pros and cons. I know that's Drew and I are in a very similar season right now with Coffee de las Mayas on, are we going to open another location, or should we make an investment into something that's actually going to save us money that we spend a lot of money on, And I know we have a couple different coffee clients right now that are on the brink of opening a new location. We have one coffee client that's going to open 2 at a time. Bennett gave me the heart palpitations that Wes gave us when we talked about wanting to open 27th and Steptoe at the same time. And we were just like, wait a minute, what are we talking about? But I think it's good for us to talk through pros and cons. What do you think about that, Ben?
Yeah, it's a tough one, especially once you've gotten to shop 2 or shop 3, and then, they're starting to fund themselves. They're starting to fund new locations. They're starting to fund projects. Basically, now that you've got money to play with, right? You're not first up like, oh God, how do I make this work? I'm barely scraping by, is it going to last? Now you've got a little bit of a foundation under you. You can go, okay, now that we've got, solid revenue coming in, what do we want to do with it? That's a tough one. I honestly think it requires, I think, a lot of foresight into not just this year, not just the next 6 months, but you should probably be thinking, okay, what does this look like over the next 5 years? Especially if you've got more than, say, 5 locations. If you've got more than 5 locations, or you've got more than 10 locations, basically the more you have, the more time you're going to have to spend thinking about this, right? Because your budget's probably larger. If you're saying, I've got enough revenue to either open one shop or do one major project, that's totally different than if you say, I have enough revenue to open 5 new locations or these many projects. So as it scales, the amount of time you're going to have to spend thinking about that should scale. But I think it's definitely a decision you got to spend some time really thinking through, because it can totally change the trajectory of your business over the next 5 years. And it's not something you want to take lightly.
Drew, this was something that you were working through just this last week, because David reached out to me for some numbers, and I'm like, wait a minute, where did this come from? And he said, well, Drew asked me to run this project for him. I'm like, where did Drew ask you to run that project? I was on every L10 and meeting that we've been having with Drew. Like, what did he ask you? And he forwarded me over the message, and it was, you had asked him this very thing, right? Hey, David, can you run some numbers for me on how profitable would it be for us to open up a new location versus doing possibly branded cups, where we're spending a lot with a vendor right now where we're buying cups. If we actually did our own instead of stickering cups or, stamping cups, would it be a benefit? Drew, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it can be difficult to always know what the next step is to take, and so I have my feelings about what I would like to do, right? And I'm sure you have your feelings, and everybody watching this has feelings about what we'd like to do, but
yeah,
feelings aren't always the best gauge for, reality and calculating the next step. And so David, he runs a lot of our cost of goods and warehousing and inventory, stock, supplies, that type of thing. So I asked him to project basically what you said, because I want to know if my gut feelings are correct. I need to check it against reality, because I can get pretty passionate about stuff, as you've so kindly said the word passionate. But there's also things that you can't necessarily factor in, such as the operation side of things. So if we do invest in an innovative product that'll save us money, that's great, right? And we know exactly how much money that will save us, which is money made. Those are dollars made. Those are dollars not spent. Those are going into the bank rather than going to some vendor. Whereas if we open a new store, it's harder to know exactly how much strain that's going to cause on the business. Because of course it'll add money to the business, right? But is it going to cannibalize another location? What's the overhead really going to look like? Is it going to be as busy as you hope it's going to be? There are these intangible things you can't necessarily know. But we do know the static cost of adding a new innovative product to our menu, which also doesn't cause extra overhead, extra operational. Because we open a new store, man, that's another manager, that's another team, that's another set of social media that we have to do. That's another set of rounds with a contractor, rounds with the city. It's a whole bunch of stuff. But in reality, if that store were projected to bring us in more cash, then, getting our own cups, creating our own products, then that's the right way to go.
Well, I think that like part of that, I think you just lined that out really, really well. And I think that what you said there that made the most sense to me was, first of all, like look at the data, right? We've been doing our P&Ls a certain way for a long time, ever since we've been in business. So we know exactly what it takes to open a new store. We know exactly what it costs to run a store in the different seasons to be able to run that store. So we should be able to project out what opening a new store is going to look like. So if you haven't gotten that, let's just talk about like back to basics for a minute. Profitandloss.coffeeexpertsacademy.com. If you haven't taken that free download from us, will you grab that there? That's just the way that I show you a little video. I give you our Excel spreadsheet on how we think that you should be lining out your P&L when it comes to coffee. Because if you don't have tight numbers, you can't go back to the data. It's all gut. And gut is great, but gut is better when you've got data behind it, right? Because then you can, just like Drew said, I had this gut feeling. I wanted to vet it. Well, the way I vetted it was I went for the numbers. I went for the data. So make sure your profit and loss is tight. So profit and loss, all spelled out, coffeeexpertsacademy.com for that free download. But once you have the data, I think you said something else there that was really, really good. And that was think through the implications of doing both, right? If we open a new location, yes, that's a cash generator. We know that. As long as it's on the right corner, right? As long as it's got the right ingress, egress, as long as the traffic count is right, you can guarantee you're going to pull enough traffic off of there. And there's matrices that we use to decide that kind of thing to know that you're going to sell enough cups to cover your monthly nut and bring in profit. We know that. We've proven that. But there are complexities added, right? So really be thinking to yourself, how much did it generate? And how much complexity would it add? And is this the right season for more complexity? I know Drew and I have really been battling this out lately together of, do we want to just take a breather and start setting aside some cash to do some bigger moves instead of just continuing to open a new location every year? Because we've been opening a new location since we've been in business, And so it's like 3 years in, 3 locations up, every new location causes complexity. Like you said, a new manager, new staff we've got to hire, all the expenses of construction plus machines, right? That's a big outlay of cash. And then after that, like things that we've had to do down in Belize that like we didn't have to do in the States, like producing all our syrups, producing all our own sauces, producing all our own powders. Like we're talking about starting to produce our own whip, like all these different things that we're doing that it's like, that's a whole new business over there. And a new location is going to add complexity to it too. You know what I mean? So I think there's the one side, that's a cash generator. And then there's the other side of, and if we just made a decision to buy new cups with our branding on it, how much would that save us and how much energy actually goes into that? And I think that there's some of those like sometimes it's seasonal. Like there's no new complexity that comes into us buying cups. If we're getting them into the country, like making sure it makes through customs, like making sure we don't get railroaded with duty, like some of those pieces. But I think that sometimes it can be an issue of what season are you in for what stick you're going to pull.
It's a fair point. I think you also have to factor in, Drew, speaking of intangibles is there's a lot of marketing that you can't really measure when you open a new location, when you get branded cups. There's a lot of just the way your customer perceives you as you're doing these things. When you go from just a plain, clear plastic cup to a branded cup with a great design, like your customers notice that your cups end up in garbage cans and they just mark it for you when people see a cup left at the park and they say, oh yeah, De Los Mayas, like that's marketing for you that you can't measure. Like there's no way to measure that. On the flip side, and I think kind of what I would argue, but I'm not the one who owns the coffee shop, so you guys can take this or leave it, is I would say you should continue opening new locations until you are a household name, until you have that hometown hero status, because I think that's the best marketing possible. Once you get to that point, and then it's like, because once you get there, yes, the opening a new shop is complex, but we kind of talked about this earlier with the gal from my Lifeline Coffee. I kind of see what she's doing with her wanting to open 2 locations. She wants to get everywhere because once she's everywhere, she can drop a shop in Timbuktu and it's going to be an instant big money generator. So I think you keep pushing and opening shops until you get to that point. Like we were at Roasters where I was like, guys, we don't need to do grand openings anymore. People will line up just for the fact that we've opened this. I think you keep opening shops till you get to that point, And then it's like, okay, now we plop a shop, instant revenue, project. But that's just my idea. You guys are the ones who actually have to go down there and build the thing.
I think there's more, on that same avenue. I remember after we opened our second location here, I called Aaron. I go, dude, we can't open any more locations. This is killing me, bro. Like operationally, I can't do this. And then we inevitably opened another location and then moved another location. So the business ages at its own pace. And by ages, I mean matures internally.
Yeah.
By infrastructure. I can only do so much. Aaron can only do so much. But if the kids that work for us don't learn as fast to manage bigger tasks, we can't necessarily just grab someone off the street and have them manage a store, or pull them in and have them be a regional, especially here where we're not super familiar with the culture. I mean, we've been here a few years now, but it's not our culture. You know what I mean? So, and there's aspects to it that like, okay, we know what the evil is, quote unquote evil is that we're going to face if we buy all these cups. Yeah. For example, cups. I don't really know what the evil is that I'm going to face if I open another store in a new city, So there, again, things that we have to sit down and determine, okay, well, is the projected profitability of that location worth all of this other headache that I'm going to have for managing another location?
Something I ran by David when David was asking me for numbers was, first off, he said that you had wanted him to run like one of our biggest stores, that's really kicking ass and taking names. And I'm like, dude, I love Drew's ambition. I'm just not sure for sure this new location is going to perform as well as one of our top performers. So do me a favor. I'm going to send you 2 P&Ls, one for the top performer and one for our midline performer, and then do a hybrid of those two, because I think that's a little bit safer of a bet than just going for one. I know Drew's really excited about this location. I know he thinks it's really going to pop off. I hope it does too, but let's blend it a little bit to see if we can get like a little more conservative number. And then I'm going to give you it for the year and I'm going to give you it for 6 months. And I want you to tell me like what you see when it comes to the profit generated in both windows of time, because a cup decision probably isn't a year-long profitability decision from a location. It's probably more like 3 to 6 month decision of profitability at a new location. So like, let's look at it from both eyes. Like, let's think about it strategically on if we did this versus this. So I do think it's nice when you have the sticks to be able to pull and push on data too. I think too, like obviously these things go without saying, but don't go off of numbers that's the way you remember them to be. Just because you got a cup quote last year doesn't mean it's going to be the same cup quote this year, because we're at war in Iran and all of our gas prices are through the roof. So bringing stuff across the ocean costs a lot more this year than it did last year. So I think like thinking through, make sure you're looking at the right data when you make decisions, and make sure you don't make a knee-jerk decision just because it, like Drew was saying earlier, it feels good. It feels like I think we should. No, it's like, no. Let's look at all the data. Let's make sure we don't rush into something before we get there. And then that way, when we step into it, realizing a lot of times, how this goes, you can only predict so much. When you step into it, you're going to step into it, like it literally. And there's going to be a whole bunch of new complications that you couldn't have foreseen. And so as much as you can, like battle test the thing before you get in there, and then realize it's going to take some bravery. And once you get into the water, you're going to need that bravery, because you're probably going to come up against a bunch of sharks that you hadn't realized you're going to have to come up against. And you're going to need to be able to, fight the good fight once you're in the water. So I think that just thinking through, okay, so how do each one of these pieces of data best serve me? Let's make sure I've got very clean information that I'm looking at. And then like, I would say, make sure you're in alignment with whoever you're going to do it with. Like I could be, that was a great point Drew brought up. Drew's like, bro, I'm going to have a mental breakdown if you keep pushing me as hard as we're pushing me right now. I'm like, no, dude, I totally get it. Let's open it up in 6 months. I mean, like I you know what I mean? Like you have to really be, especially in a partnership, or I think a lot of married couples do businesses together. Like make sure you're listening to each other and you're not just like one of you pushing too hard, so much so that it turns into a big conflict, because all three of us have been in the middle of businesses where the business was baller. It was so sick. But what crushed the business was conflict in the partnership, conflict between making decisions. And I know all of us have been on calls before where we're like, what are we even dealing with right now? This has nothing to do with the business. This is that you guys aren't getting along. And now we're doing marital counseling, and now we're doing like partner counseling. Like make sure you're on the same page with people you're making decisions with, because if you try and ramrod something through, like it could have a pretty catastrophic effect on the entirety of your business, as we saw front and center. We had a front row seat.
Well, this is why we're good partners, is because no matter how objective I tried to be, I was so confident in the cup decision that I threw our most profitable store at it on the other side, because I figured it would save us the most money on cups. And you said, no, reel that back in a little bit.
Great. So what's the decision going to be then?
No, we're not going to let you know that. But also, I think Something else like that. So like we talk about a couple of things here on the show when it comes to profit. So I think another thing like we've thought long and hard about is beans. Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like at what point do we start roasting our own beans? You know, we're at 3 locations. Ben, we always talk about this on, we talk about it in the masterclass too, when it comes to when do you start making some of these big decisions? We always say it's magic numbers 3, right? So once you have 3, that's when you can start making some of the bigger pivots. And, you know, Drew and I have had to really look hard at, should we just start bringing green in? You know, should we start getting a machine? But then, like Drew said, it's all the same questions, right? Of complexity of we have to buy a machine, getting a machine to Belize is not that easy, right? We have to train somebody on how to use this machine. It's a whole nother business factor. It's a whole nother shipping factor. It's a whole nother process that we don't know about Belize yet. I remember when we opened the bigger roastery for Resilient and we got all that pushback from
Mm-hmm.
the city and the county because we were pushing all that smoke through the stack into an area that they were not happy about. And we hadn't even considered that this new big roaster that we had bought in this new big roastery that we had just built was going to have pushback from, you know, the folks that from agriculture that did not like that we had just thrown that over there. And so I think thinking through, man, make sure you're trying to look at it with both eyes open and not just like this and hoping that your little minute way of looking at it's going to land you like big dollars.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, it's probably best to make these types of decisions probably when you're not in the thick of it. And I think to your point of the seasonal stuff, because you know, I remember we would talk about opening new shops coming off of a grand opening, and I would just be like Drew said, I'd be like, dude, I'm gonna die if we do this again. So like trying to make a decision like that when you're overworked or you haven't had a vacation or you're tired or you've got 10 other things going on in your life is probably that you should probably say, hey, let's not make that decision now because I'm not like I can't. If you ask me to do anything right now, I'll just say no. But if you don't, you know, go on a vacation, take some time off, take some time to think, come back and go, okay, I'm not as tired as I actually thought I was. You know, we could do this, or it gives you the time to think. You know, I've spent the last 3 or 4 days maybe on a beach somewhere, and I've really been able to think about: is this what I want for the business? Do I want branded cups? Are branded cups important to me? It's important that the community sees my cup everywhere and it has my name on it. I would definitely, not make any of those decisions quickly or when you're under duress from other stuff because you're just going to make a bad decision.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron gets to deal with that with me because it always happens. I'm like, no more stores, bro. This is it. And then a month later, I'm like, let's get going, dude. I've been looking at this new site. I counted traffic.
I love that's our energy because I'd be like, yeah, and I know that I can tell you, yeah, because in a month from now we're gonna go my direction. We're gonna be opening more stores.
Yeah, and I'll get a few more white gray hairs.
Not getting any younger.
But I will say this, there's so some of you listening, maybe you haven't opened in your coffee shop yet. I know we just had a couple of new folks join Coffee Experts Academy, which is 35 modules, beginner, intermediate, advanced, helping you open your coffee shop. So if you haven't checked that out, that's where we always recommend people go if they want that. We've had a couple new folks join, and they had some questions that I thought were really good. But let's say you're just starting. I would say take the least gamble first, right? Like, are there ways that you can begin to get into this without having to outlay crazy amounts of money first? I've really been impressed with Adam Angelovic and Ruby Brews and what they're trying to do up in St. George, Utah, where he knew he wanted to open a drive-through, so he's working on his LOI with the shopping center he wants to be in, and meanwhile starting to roast his own beans and starting to distribute them in their area. We can start to organically begin to grow this name of Ruby Brews in this area so that as people start enjoying his coffee and he gets it out there more and more in his community, when a location pops up, he's already fed the community the seeds for them to be able to say, oh, look at that, they've got a location. And then you got all the people that get excited for you. And I thought, man, what a smart move, because a lot of times it does take a while to get a location going and to get the LOI signed and get into a lease. And then, the shopping center is just being built. And so your location's it's not gonna be that phase for a year from now. And then you're like, what am I supposed to use? Like twiddle my thumbs for the next year? And Adam's like, no, I'm going to get a roaster. I'm going to learn how roasting works. I'm going to get my roast down exactly right. I'm going to get people in my area really excited about it so that when I open my location, it's going to be like a prepackaged launch plan. So if you're out there thinking about starting coffee, I would always say, think about ways that you could get going before you get going. Think about ways that you could start before you actually have to outlay all the cash. Because it's not a cheap endeavor. It's going to cost you some money to open up your own coffee shop. Think about it through clear eyes. I mean, could you use an existing building? Like, I know we were talking about Lifeline a little bit earlier as well. Like, I think she ponies up with gas stations. I know Jonathan did that with Coffee Republic up in Great Falls in Montana, our coffee clients, where he ponied up with a gas station, existing business, like lipstick on a pig to the thing, put in a drive-through window, and Bob's your uncle. He's able to open and have traffic without having to outlay all the cash to develop the field and fight with the city and put up the building and all the different pieces. So be thinking of ways you can do it strategically. Consider the season that you're in. Make sure you're aligned with your partner. Make sure you really are looking at the data clearly. I think all those things are the ways you need to determine, like, what decision should I be making right now? Where should I be spending money? How could I be saving money?
Love it.
Yep.
Sure.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you hanging out for Coffee Experts Club. Coffee Experts, I hope you enjoyed it. You can join us back here next week. Same place, Coffee Experts Club. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.